fall, one of the most magical times of the year, in my opinion. There's a little chill in the air, the wind is blowing. In some parts of the country, you can turn on the fireplace and get really cozy. But we all know with these temperature changes, it calls for some warmer clothing, even some jackets to start to come into play. I'm going to share with you today the full breakdown on working with New Look 6713 pattern and the surprising turnout of this particular pattern. Of course, I had to do some modifications, but we'll get to it. Hello, my fellow sewists and creatives. I'm Rachel Ann, and I'm so happy that you're here. This is Dine in Creativity, where I'm happy to share my sewing journey, the highs, the lows, / what I learned from my sewing journey, and a little bit of everything in between. This pattern was surprising in terms of it came out, in my opinion, looking like this jacket, but also because of some modifications, which I'm very excited to share with you. It actually ended up being cuter to me than what I expected. And I say that humbly speaking. You know, you never know when you start going into a pattern and tweaking it to make it kind of work better for what you're looking for. It can be a gamble, but this was a happy gamble, a fun risk to take. And so I just share all of that to encourage you. Use your patterns and branch out, kind of create garments that you really love and want to play around with. So something took over me when it came to this particular jacket. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out from over here. Something came over me. I had found this material at the Last Chance bargain section of Joann Fabrics a couple weeks ago. I was so excited to work with it. It was one of those projects, I didn't even think about it. I immediately came home, washed and dried the fabric, and then tore into it. Just started sewing up this particular jacket, not really having a full plan of action. I just was so excited to work with this fabric. And throughout this video, I'll be sharing 2 separate outfits that I paired this jacket with, just to show you the versatility of how this can be worn with a dressier outfit for girls' night, a dinner out, a date night, or it can be dressed way down to be worn with tennis shoes, jeans, a bodysuit, etc., etc. And the bodysuits that I got, even the one I'm wearing now, this is a jacket I sewed up not too long ago. They're all from Amazon. I link them in the description down below because they keep you snatched, and I'm not going to gatekeep these bodysuits, so feel free to go check those out in that link below. But this particular pattern was fun. It was very straightforward, very easy to modify and tweak. And if I am not mistaken, I don't see a rating, but I would rate it easy, especially if you don't want to insert the zipper right here that it calls for, which I didn't. I already knew with this chunky fabric, I did not want to add any more bulk to this particular pattern per se. As you can see, this fabric I chose, I know I'm jumping all over, but this fabric, I just kind of want to explain myself. This fabric is, in my opinion, reversible. So we've got this, I say shearling, but really it's Sherpa. It's this Sherpa cozy fabric. If you've ever gotten a North Face jacket, one of their cozy Sherpa jackets, this is what it reminds me of. And on the back was this gorgeous kind of androgynous, masculine even, dark green plaid. I loved the play on using this dark green traditional plaid, almost that tartan plaid, to create a feminine jacket. There were a couple tweaks I did as I was going to share with you. Some of them being, I wanted to make fun Sherpa borders on everything. I was gonna use this fabric to its full capacity. So what I did is essentially in this jacket, it does call for a yoke. And that to me was the perfect opportunity to turn the yoke inside out so that the fluffy Sherpa fabric was on the shoulders, so it really kind of gives this effect of being this puffy, oversized collar, and then it adds to it with that little puffy yoke there. And then I also did the same with the collar. Then I also went ahead and added on the bottom the same thing with the actual border trim. I'm gonna throw up a video of what it was like to sew with this. It was a workout, let me tell you. I put my little brother machine through the ringer with this project and just made it happen. So I'm very proud of my machine. It worked like a charm. I used a heavyweight needle to work with this fabric. And then I found on Amazon a reversible zipper, which I looked at Joann's, maybe I missed it, but I could not find a reversible zipper that I really liked, honestly. This one is black and gold, and that's really what I wanted. To me, the hardware is so important. It can really snazz up a garment and just add a little extra something, elevate it. So I found this reversible zipper. Honestly, I just taught myself how to insert it. There probably was a better method, but one of the things I did is add bias tape for the side of the jacket that needed to be secured, I guess you could say. Sometimes it's hard for me to fully explain some of these concepts, so I hope that that makes sense. This was essentially the part of the fabric that wasn't, you can't roll this. So I could not do rolled hems with this, and I did do French seams on parts of it, which I'll show you. But this was the part of the fabric that I needed to add a little something to secure the unraveling fabric in it. That's probably the best way I can explain it. But then on the outside, I just sewed down the reversible jacket zipper, and I like it. I think for my first time, this is my first real jacket I've ever sewn. This one was a mock bomber jacket I did not too long ago. This thing was nothing compared to this beast. It took me over a week to sew this up. I just had to start doing it in sections. It was the messiest fabric to work with. This Sherpa, it was shedding everywhere. So I made sure to secure it. There were even some places, I'm gonna be totally honest, where I had to hand sew different pieces of it down, which I'm okay with. I mean, like I said, for my first one, it is a very well-constructed garment. It's not going anywhere, and that hand sewing helped to secure that. I would love to hear from you. Do you ever have to just hand sew a couple little pieces into place, or do you use your sewing machine for the entire thing? I'm usually a use my sewing machine for the entire garment kind of person, but with this one, it was kind of difficult in certain places to make sure that this thick fabric was caught the way that it needed to be caught. And so I did have to go back and kind of hand sew a couple places, which, to be honest, I can't even really tell at this point. Oh, well, here's one. So I'm gonna show this to you. Right here, I had to hand sew it because this little plaid piece, the flap was starting to come up. Again, it did not get caught in the sewing machine and did not get sewn down. So then I just hand sewed it. I'm all right with it, no biggie. The other piece, I added this huge collar, and I'm flipping it so that you can see what I'm talking about. Me and my French seams, but I really wanted this particular jacket to be totally reversible. So you're also gonna see these videos playing of me flipping it inside out. I know it's not perfect, and I know I love it, I'm happy with it, but I know it's funky in certain places, and this is one of them. You can see the seam on the shoulder, okay? You really can. There's something I kind of like about it. It just adds to the funkiness of the jacket itself. The other piece is the yokes. I just had to take a pause. I'm just still laughing at myself with these French seams, which I know I talk about quite a bit, but it makes me laugh because I French seam basically anything and everything I can, even when it's this crazy thick fabric. So I French seamed the yokes on here. So that is food for thought too for you if you decide that you want your jacket to also be reversible, the biggest thing is gonna be to make sure you also French seam it. There are some other things that you can do. I did watch several different YouTube videos because I'm trying to think, how do I make this look the best, but also make it reversible? Some people actually use bias tape and sew it down. I think I have bias tape so I can show you. Okay, this will show up nice. This is, I think 1 inch wide bias tape, but some people actually take that bias tape and line it on the outside and then just sew down on either side. That is an option. You could do that even around the sleeves. You know, so technically I guess I could have done it with this jacket, but to be honest, there were times where when I was sewing this jacket up, it was a little precarious. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking this brother machine is gonna blow up on me. But it didn't. It worked like a charm. I mean, that machine, 120 bucks for this sewing machine, my first sewing machine. I am thrilled with it. So quick shout out to Brother Sewing Machines. They make quality machines. But again, there were times where I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna push it. So I'm not gonna do all this added bias tape. When you decide to work with this particular pattern, as you can see, there are little accents that you can add a different colored fabric or do a lining and it would show. Not even lining it really. They have it set up that there is a pattern piece that you actually just sew, top sew, if I'm not mistaken, onto the collar so that when you unzip the jacket, you can see that other color. There are so many fun things you could do. You could do a funky print. You could do a funky print on the pocket and then the cuffs. I just wanted everything to be, again, reversible. And so with that being said, I just took these huge pieces and flipped them to the way I wanted them to look. I believe I have a video, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Just a very short and sweet little video to show you that I cut the sleeve out in its entirety from the pattern and then cut off about 4.5, 5 inches from the very bottom, which I then sewed the wrong side to the right side, did a French seam all the way around. Very easy little tweak to make it reversible and add a little touch. The final note I will share when it comes to the collar, I didn't want this collar and I also didn't want it to be loose at the bottom. You may have noticed that in my videos that I put up here. I wanted it to be almost like a mix between a bomber jacket and then this jacket. So what I did, as you saw, I took that border that I sewed onto this particular jacket and looped some thick elastic through it. And by thick, I mean it was like an inch elastic piece so that it would kind of gather at the bottom. Then I did the same thing. The sleeve openings were huge and, you know, even on her, they look large. I don't want to be bothered with all that, you know. So I also looped a 1/2 inch piece of elastic around the sleeve opening. Let me see if I can show this to you. Oh, well, you can't really tell, but it's right here. And I just looped that and sewed it. So really this just has a tiny little Sherpa lining, and then you've got the plaid lining, and then you have the full Sherpa. This is the reversible side. So there are so many fun tweaks, modifications that you can do with this little number. If you decide to sew it up, or you already have sewn it up, please tell me how it turned out. I would love to hear your take on it, what you decide to do, the colors that you decide to use, and I'm just so happy to be, honestly, just to be done with it. In the time, it was some stress involved, if I'm being honest. I thought that this was the jacket that was never gonna be completed, but I kind of rallied as one does. You may relate watching where you got a difficult project and you think, all right, I just got to sit down, put the nose to the grindstone and get this baby done. That's what I did, and I could not be any happier. I realized this is kind of more of an East Coast jacket. I am hoping it gets cold enough here to wear it. I tried to wear it today. I was sweating. I mean, it's windy here in Southern California, but it's really not super cold. So the weather, too warm still. But at least I have this in my jacket collection. This is definitely a piece I feel like I can wear really anywhere because it's just that classic plaid fabric. If you are also in the same boat as I am and you don't have a whole lot of experience sewing up jackets, this is definitely one I would encourage you to take a peek at. Again, super straightforward. The instructions were very clear. If you aren't what I affectionately refer to myself as a sewing psycho, if you're not a sewing psycho like I am, it should be very straightforward. If you start to modify or deviate, that's where things may go a little awry, but then you can always problem solve it and just make it the way that you want it to be. There you have it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. As always, I hope you are enjoying the fall and cooler temps. What kind of projects do you have going on? Are you going to branch out this year? Maybe sew something that you've never sewn up before? This is one of my first ones. The other thing is I'd like to try to sew some jeans. I really would. Some baggy, kind of loose, comfortable jeans. So if you have a really cute jeans pattern that you love, feel free to share. I'm all ears, all eyes. But happy creating, and be well.